Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.
Hello, and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Dannii Cohen. This week's guest is Nigel Richards. Nigel Richards performed the role of the Phantom in The Phantom of the Opera on West End. He also starred as Grantaire and Enjolras in Les Misérables. Other work includes the West End premiere of Leonard Bernstein's Mass, Black Rider, South Pacific, Blood Brothers, Beauty and the Beast, As You Like It, Company, and more. I hope you will enjoy the show. Hi.
Hey there. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah. Oh, you've got the Phantom Mask, all that stuff. My goodness.
What are you up to right now?
Okay, well, I'm very tired because I've been running around all day in a clock. I'm playing Cogsworth in the brand new production of Disney's Beauty and the Beast, and but the cast is fantastic. I actually I've trained 7 of the cast, would you believe? Because I teach. So
Yes.
It's been great to see students that I've taught now playing the leads. In fact, both Belle and the Beast are past students of mine.
Who are they?
Oh gosh, you're gonna expose me. So there's Emmanuel Kojo is playing the Beast, and Courtney something is playing Belle. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? You've caught me off guard there.
I'll cut it out.
Yeah, no, don't worry, it's fine, it's fine. But it's a joyous time. There is millions has gone into this brand new production, and it's a new design as well by the original designers, and people are going to be really surprised at the amount of magic that's in it, and also the new designs for all the costumes, and the fact that we have a black Beast, a black actor playing the Beast, and a black actress playing Belle. So for a whole generation of a younger audience, they're going to see their first black Disney princess, which would be wonderful.
Yes.
So yeah, great news.
When did you know you wanted to be in musical theatre?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor. I wasn't, but I just happened to be able to sing. So I really wanted to be an actor first, but I guess when I was about 8 years old, I saw Glynis Johns singing Send in the Clowns on British television, and I didn't understand the song at all, but I just started to cry because it just made me so emotional. And I guess that's the moment that I realized that songs were really, really powerful. So yeah, Glynis Johns was the actress that Send in the Clowns was originally written for in A Little Night Music. And then I was a stage boy. Yeah, I went to a stage school and started to dance and act and sing. And I was very lucky. When I was 11, my music teacher was a wonderful singing teacher, and she got me starting to sing. And by 13, she'd left the school. I was devastated. And she became one of the great Monteverdi singers in the world. So, and we're still friends. So we're meeting up in Cardiff when I'm there.
That's wonderful. Such a long friendship to share all that together.
Oh yeah, I have 2 friends who were my teachers when I was 11, and yeah, I'm very lucky to have people with that kind of history, you know.
Absolutely, yes. What was your first big break?
I guess it would have been the first lead that I played was Hero in A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. He's very gormless and he's such an idiot. And I went up to the Forum Wythenshawe, which was a very famous theatre at that time, and they did the British premiere of Follies. They'd done the British premiere of Pacific Overtures, so it was quite the place to be. and I played Hero in A Funny Thing Happened to Her on the way to the Forum. And then I was offered the original Dannii in Baby. And if anyone knows that musical, it's a charming musical by Maltby and Shire. Maltby went on to write the lyrics for Miss Saigon, of course.
Yes.
So I had a great time on Baby. In fact, there's a story that I always tell about the power of musical theatre, which is that we were doing Baby in Edinburgh. And if people don't know Baby, there's an amazing song called Patterns in it. And in it, this woman who's 43 decides to abort her child and leave her husband. And we'd done this performance in Edinburgh, and this woman came up to us afterwards at the stage door, and she'd obviously been crying. And she said, thank you so much. And we went, you know, typically English, we sort of went, oh, well, that's all right. It was, you know, very nice that you enjoyed it. She went, no, you don't understand. I'm 43 years old. I was going to abort my child and leave my husband, and I thought I was alone. And it was, I know, and it was
Amazing.
Just one of those moments that you think, oh my God, we have absolutely no idea who needs the song. You know, I sang Bring Him Home at a concert a couple of years ago in England, and there was this big rugby playing guy on the front row, and you know, huge shoulders, and I started to sing He's Like a Child I Might Have Known, and this man suddenly collapsed in his chair and started to cry, and he was led out of the concert straight afterwards. And I asked someone, you know, what happened to the guy on the front? And he said he'd lost his child 3 weeks before and hadn't started to grieve. And by singing that amazing song from Les Misérables,
yes,
I'd actually accessed his emotions, and he could start to grieve. So it's a huge responsibility being in musical theatre.
Yes, it is, because well, sometimes you turn to a song, and sometimes a song just appears to you just when you need it.
Oh, absolutely. I remember when I was playing Floyd Collins, and there was one song at the end called How Glory Goes, and my father was suffering from Alzheimer's at the time, and Floyd is sort of losing his mind as well by the end. And in a strange way, I felt very connected to my father at that time, because I was going through a sort of parallel madness, but in the show. And I've continued to sing that song in my father's memory for years since. I sang it at his funeral.
Yes, it's an amazing thing to do.
Yes. Yeah, I sang Unusual Way from 9 for my mother's funeral. It seemed like, you know, biologically, my parents gave me my singing voice, so the least I could do was make it an offering back in memory of their lives. So yeah, my brothers and my sister who aren't in the profession at all, they went, oh my God, I can't imagine that you could sing at, you know, your parents' funeral. And I said, actually, it was really easy, because I was just giving my gift back to my parents. So it felt like a beautiful offering to do. It felt very selfless. I mean, there wasn't a dry eye in the house as I was singing them. But, you know, funerals, as we know, they're not times for the family to grieve. They're times for all the friends to grieve, and then the family can grieve later. It's part of that. So we have to keep it together. We've got terribly serious, haven't we? All about funerals so soon. But that's, yeah, for me, music has always been important, and I teach singing now. And yeah, my life's always been full of music, and it's a great joy, and I pity anyone who doesn't have any music in their lives.
Absolutely, yes, because well, it helps with everything. It heals, it cheers you up, it does everything.
Absolutely, it can take you to other worlds. It can remind you about your own humanity, whether that's good or bad. Songs are incredibly powerful because they just are so linked to emotions, and often we can't sort out in our heads what how to cope with things. But if we hear a certain song, I was driving up the West Coast with a friend of mine who'd just gone through a divorce, and a song came on the radio by the Indigo Girls, who I love. They're a sort of folk rock group, and there's a song called Ghost, and it's about a divorce. and we stopped the car and she just listened to it 6 or 7 times on the Pacific High Road by the Pacific Ocean, and she just wept and wept and wept, because it was just an eloquent expression of exactly where she was. It can remind you about your own humanity, whether that's good or bad. Songs are incredibly powerful because they just are so linked to emotions. And often we can't sort out in our heads how to cope with things. But if we hear a certain song, I was driving up the West Coast with a friend of mine who'd just gone through a divorce, and a song came on the radio by the Indigo Girls, who I love. They're a sort of folk rock group, and there's a song called Ghost, and it's about a divorce. And we stopped the car and she just listened to it 6 or 7 times on the Pacific High Road by the Pacific Ocean, and she just wept and wept and wept, because it was just an eloquent expression of exactly where she was.
A lot of listeners asked me to ask you about your time on Phantom and Les Misérables. Could you tell about that?
Oh, Phantom was my first Les Misérables was my first West End show. I already had long hair, so that helped in the audition. So they didn't have to buy a wig. I'd done Hair the musical. I did the 21st anniversary production of Hair, and then I'd gone to live with Native American Indians in Oregon, and so I had long flowing hair, and I looked like an ugly Chippendale, you know, the male dancers.
Yes.
Who had the long hair, but I didn't have the body. But and I auditioned it, and I got it, and my mother was hilarious. She couldn't pronounce Les Misérables, but she wanted to tell the world that I was in it. And so she would ring up her friends and go, well, of course, you know that Nigel is in Les Misérables, and she would completely get it wrong. And but Les Misérables was a fantastic opportunity. I did it from 1991 to 1994. I started off as the factory foreman, and then I played Grantaire and Enjolras, and then I was in my second week of playing Enjolras when I fell from the barricade and I had to have my right leg reconstructed.
Oh dear.
Yeah, so now when people are being shown around the set, actually there isn't a revolve in the new production, is there? But
No.
No, that's such a shame.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I mean, all of us who are in the old production are really quite territorial about how special that production was, and the revolve was amazing for making it feel fluid and filmic. And I just remember the first time we practiced on the revolve, and it was hilarious. It was like being at Disneyland or Alton Towers or something. It was like a fun fair, and we were all giggling. I stayed a long time in Les Mis, 3 years. 1 year of that was recovering with my right leg, learning how to walk again, and then I went back into the show as Grantaire. And yeah, Les Misérables is an astonishing piece to be in, especially in the original production. Phantom came up, so I was Phantom in 2009. At the point of, I was a rather strange Phantom actually, because Ramin Karimloo, wonderful Phantom, who of course did Love Never Dies, he was taking a lot of time off Phantom in order to help Lloyd Webber to mount the new production. So they needed someone who could play the Phantom for the 6 shows a week, you know, or whatever that was required. My goodness. I mean, from the get-go, we approached Phantom quite differently, because I'm an actor who sings. We very much went, I'm sort of an unusual Phantom in the fact that with the direction by Lawrence Connor, we actually made him the monster in silk and allowed Raoul to be the leading man. And I think that's, for me, that's how it's constructed. For me, I don't want to see a pretty man playing the Phantom. I don't want to know that he can take that makeup off and, you know, he's pretty when he comes out of the stage door. The Phantom should be a really, really scary monster who is transformed by love at the end. And let Raoul do all the love songs and looking pretty, you know, in his costume. So I played the Phantom quite differently, and some people loved it, but oh my goodness, when the fans don't like you, they really don't like you, and it becomes, I sort of turned off Twitter and turned off Facebook because I was getting quite bombarded with the negative reaction to me playing him as such a monster rather than the romantic lead. But I stand by my decision that that's the way it's constructed. I remember seeing Michael Crawford in the original production, and he was so scary, and you absolutely believed that he was capable of murder. And I think Phantoms that I've seen since, I've never believed in that, really, that they were sort of leading men and heroic, but I really wanted to see the monster that he was, and I think that's how it works. But you know, I left early because well, I don't think my performance was liked in Phantom, sadly, and they had a lot of fans, and they do listen to the fans, and so when you're not liked, and so we came to an arrangement that I would leave early because they were getting so many fans saying they didn't like my performance. So it's a shame, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and I loved playing it. There's nothing like that end scene where all the tunes of Phantom comes in, and it's like this. It's his madness and his psychosis. It's brilliantly written. It's absolutely brilliant written. And of course, once you play the Phantom, you then spend the rest of your life singing Music of the Night, which is so difficult to sing because I'm a baritone that goes up high rather than a tenor. So when I sing those top A flats, it hurts. You know, it costs. The cast were amazing. I had Gina Beck as my main Christine, and of course she's gone on to do Showboat and Mathilde, and she's just an astonishing artist. She's doing South Pacific, I believe, in Chichester at the moment. So, and she was so classy. And I always remember in Phantom at the end of Music of the Night, you know, you're kind of pretty exhausted having sung one of the biggest songs in musical theatre, and then you have to lift Christine up. I mean, it's totally ridiculous. So, but I remember, oh my goodness, they want blood, don't they? But I loved being Phantom. But as I say, not a lot of people did, and that's their choice. You know, there are some very loyal Phantom fans out there.
An audio view on YouTube now, and it does get good reactions.
It does. I think. Yeah, I mean, and some people have been absolutely delightful about my Phantom, but I think it's a different thing to hear it than if you saw me, because I'm only 5'8". I mean, Ramin's like 6'2", and he's a leading man. I'm more like a sort of rugby playing monster when I played Phantom. So I think if you saw me, you may not have wanted the Phantom that you saw, and I think that's where it all came all right. But it's a fantastic sing, and I used to love singing Music of the Night. There are so many top A flats for a baritone. I used to count them off in my head. You know, it's like, oh, good, I got that one, right, on to the next one. Oh, good. And there is one, for any musician that's out there, there's one top A, and you're suspended in the Angel of Death, and you have to sing this top note that's the top note of anyone. And it's, and now how you betrayed me. That and is the highest note that the Phantom sings in the whole piece. And it's so difficult to squeeze that out when you're in a harness hanging over the Angel of Death, you know, hundreds of feet up in the air. It's so scary. So, but it was wonderful. And as soon as I left Phantom, I then did sort of an opposite piece. I played, I went to the Royal Court, which is an amazing theatre in London, known for new writing. And I worked with Mark Almond, the pop star from Soft Cell. And we both played the same man in a play about the Great Plague of London in 1665. So my life is rich. I go from the Phantom to, you know, someone who dies of the plague in 1665. You know, it's a rich life, I tell you.
It is.
Great. Yeah, it's fabulous. I'll be interested to see what the new production looks like, because apparently it's not Neofitu's set anymore. I think they're using a touring set.
Yes,
So,
it's going to be completely different. And I heard that instead of the angel, there now will be a horse.
really, you know more
Yes.
than I do.
Yeah.
Wow. I know because Ellen, who plays the costume maker, the seamstress, she was in it almost from the beginning, and she's not in it anymore. They've got rid of the whole cast, and now they've recast the whole thing. So must be very sad if you've given so many years to Phantom and loved it. And even when I did it in 2009, she was still on it every night. She was so concentrated. And it's just such a shame that she's not in it.
Just like the auction master, he too. He was, yes.
That's right. He'd been in it from the beginning.
Yes.
And he'd actually been resident director on it at one point. And yes, it's been his life. And I know he's written at length about how disappointed he is, you know, not to be in the production. But you know, that's their decision. We're just but it was wonderful to play, but I'm someone who doesn't like to return to a role, so it was great to play. Really glad I did it, and of course it opens so many doors for. It's a calling card for everyone. If you say that you played the Phantom, it immediately tells people sort of where you are in the strata. It's like saying you were Elphaba, or you played a Jean Valjean. It's one of those, it's tremendous calling card for the rest of your career, you know. So I'm very glad that I did it, even though I lasted a very short time. Those pesky fans who didn't like me. Of course, Les Mis is in concert at the moment, and then will become the touring production. The Barricade is already smaller than it was before because of the Queen's Theatre. It's actually the touring Barricade. When I remember in Les Misérables, sorry, I'm just chatting away here now. When I was in Les Misérables, I think I was told that the barricades weighed 6 tons each. And at one night, one of the cast, because we're all in Paris, they're all wearing rags. One of the rags slipped under a wheel and she was being dragged under the barricade, and she was screaming so much that the Thénardier came on, thought, that doesn't sound like an actor's scream, that sounds like a real scream, and ran over while singing and literally ripped the dress off that was pulling her underneath the set. So, yeah, I mean, they're dangerous places, you know. And I've worked for Cirque du Soleil, and I did Martin Guerre as well.
Oh yes, it's a great musical too.
Oh, I love some of the music from Martin Guerre. And yeah, I used to love being in that. That was another.
It's also toured with a lot of productions.
Yes, I was Quasimodo in Notre Dame de Paris, in China and Korea, which was fascinating. I'd never been to China before. And it was absolutely fascinating. I sort of wanted to be quite naughty while I was out there, because the Notre Dame de Paris and the role of Quasimodo, it's very anti-establishment. And I thought, how great to take a piece about, you know, how the establishment is crippling people, literally, and how those people fight back with love. And I thought, wow, this is a fascinating message to send to China. So that's the reason I did it. Yeah, that's the reason why I did it, because I do need, it wasn't, you know, I'd much, I mean, between you and me, I'd much prefer to play Quasimodo in the Disney version.
Yes.
Just because, you know, I'm not naturally a rock singer, and Notre Dame de Paris is a big rock sort of concert, really, and incredibly dangerous. Again, why do I keep on doing these shows where I have to climb, you know, 60-foot walls in Notre Dame de Paris? Where else have I toured? So I also toured with Tom Waits, if anyone knows Tom Waits, very gravelly voice singer. He was wonderful. And I toured in a piece called The Black Rider all around the world. and I was in Australia for my 40th birthday. And in the morning, I was climbing Sydney Harbour Bridge as a sort of dare. In the afternoon, I was doing an understudy rehearsal for some people who were gonna be on that night. And then in the evening, they threw me a party, and it was amazing to be headlining the Sydney Festival on my 40th birthday. And then the reviews came out on the night of my 40th birthday. And it was a very, very special time to be in Australia and to be starring in a show. Yeah, it's nothing like it, really. So yeah, I'm so lucky. I also sing in Latvia every year at the Grand Ball in Cesis. And that's amazing because, of course, Latvia was under Russian rule after the Second World War. And they actually fought back in a very subtle war. They actually fought back with music because Latvia was a sort of illegal language under Russian rule. But so they would sing in Russian, they would sing in Latvian to get out of the laws. And so everyone joined a choir in order to keep their language alive. So I went there, you know, in about 10 years ago, and singers are revered there because they're seen as political animals. So they have a completely different sense of that a musician is part of their heritage and part of how they fought Russia. It's amazing cultural difference.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're all hoping that Beauty and the Beast will come into town. There's nothing like being in your own bed when you find me in my hotel room, and I'm going to be in a hotel room for quite a long time. So, but I miss my own bed. So, you know, that's the thing about touring. So.
It must be lonely sometimes.
Actually, when you're touring, I think casts are closer when you're touring.
Yes.
So we tend to go out, you know, a couple of us will go out maybe for a drink, or I know when we get up to Liverpool, I want to get to Blundell Sands, which is where the statues are of the standing people on the beach. And I'll, you know, I normally end up being the social secretary going, oh, well, does anyone want to go to this theatre, or does anyone want to go to this gallery, or hey, check out this statue or ever, and museums and stuff. So I tend to do that because I'm old and they like all that, you know. So it tends to be much more sociable than when you're in town, where you can go back to your lives, back to your beds and your partners. So actually, it's probably a bit more sociable.
So both are good in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I haven't been to Bristol in years, so it's been nice. The last time I was in Bristol, I was taking off my clothes. I was in hair. So I'm very glad. I'm very glad to redress the balance of poor old Bristol seeing me naked. Now they're seeing me as Cogsworth, the clock. So I think I'm redressing the balance here.
I was going to ask what your favorite memory was, but you have so many already. Is there any other memories?
Favorite memory. Oh my goodness. So many. I think it was my uncle, who was very ill at the time. He came to see, my parents had already died by the time that I played Phantom, unfortunately. But my uncle was still alive and very, very frail. And he came into my dressing room afterwards, after seeing me. And I'd got him the box so that he could, because I don't know whether many people know this, but the Phantom's dressing room is actually off the main audience corridor down. So if they go to take a wrong turning, and they'll actually find themselves in the Phantom's dressing room, because he's kept apart from the rest of the cast. And it's always been constructed that way, that the Phantom doesn't meet anyone else except for when they're on stage, to keep in this sort of loner kind of mentality. I didn't enjoy it much because I'm much more of a company member, you know. But so my uncle came in. He was very frail, and I just remember he was just crying with pride, and he said, you know, I'm here in your mother's place, and you know, I'm just so proud. And it was just so, yeah, it was so wonderful that he managed to come. And he died about a year afterwards, I guess. And it was so lovely that he got to see me play Phantom.
You do teaching and master classes now, right?
I do. So I was head of acting through song at ArtsEd for 8 years, and ArtsEd is one of our big triple threat schools in London. I stopped going there, and now I teach singing privately, and I also give masterclasses around the world about acting through song, and I love teaching. I teach a lot in China, Malaysia, got a couple of students in Japan. I mean, thank God for Zoom. I have to say, I shouldn't advertise Zoom. We're on Zoom at the moment, but yeah, thank goodness, because it meant that I could keep teaching. I was supposed to be doing some big concerts in Beijing, and they got cancelled. But they still wanted me to teach some of the young musical theatre students there. In fact, the last production of Beauty and the Beast was in Shanghai, and the directors were saying about the huge difference between Chinese musical theatre performers, who aren't really musical. They really don't have a tradition of musical theatre in China, and the difference between those actors and us rehearsing at the moment. So yeah, fascinating. I'm very lucky. I've been around the world singing, and it's a great life.
I think we've come to the end.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
Well, look, thank you so much for asking me. So yeah, is that enough for your interview? Is that all right?
Yes, it was great.
Great. All right.
Yes.
Well, look, thank you so much for asking me. So now I'm gonna have an early night now. I'm gonna have a long bath, because I'm very old, and I now, if I've been moving around all day, I need a bath, and then I'm gonna have an early night. So, but lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for asking me. It's really kind of you.
Okay, let's stay in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right then.
Bye.
See you.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.